Hi all, this is Dr. Sage Breslin, and this is Wisdom Wednesdays. Last time we were talking about exiting toxic relationships when that person is a loved one, an intimate partner. So today we're going to talk about exiting toxic relationships when that is a family member. So, if that family member is somebody that you're living with and or if that family member is somebody who's violent, then I want you to actually go back to the last video and follow the instructions for exiting in that video because they are really nearly the same. So I'm going to have you do that. Now, if the family member doesn't live with you, or if they are more separate from you and they are not violent, then let's talk about that. Okay, so the question I get very often from y'all is, when do you say enough's enough, right? I think when somebody's violent, in many ways, it's easier to look at that and say, I can't do this. This isn't okay. But when the violence is emotional or verbal violence, it's much more difficult for folks to say, it doesn't matter that this person is my family. That doesn't matter. It's enough. So when is enough enough, right? When does it come down to that? And I have a couple of guidelines for you to follow. So enough is enough when you are being harmed. Enough is enough when you no longer feel like yourself a good percentage of the time. Enough is enough when you feel as if you're being criticized, shamed, and blamed a lot of the time. And enough is enough when you can no longer serve others, when your gift and ability to uplift, heal, and serve others is being impaired by any kind of interaction with that toxic family member. So what does that look like? When you don't live with that person and maybe they're really awful all the time, sometimes it's pretty easy to just say, I'm divorcing that family member. I'm not doing that. We can acclimate to the use of divorce when marriages are really unhealthy, right? So I know we've followed this lineage of, blood is thicker than water, but that is crap. That's not real. Would you love an adopted child any less because they didn't spring from your womb? No. So really, let's focus on, how and who are you as a result of these interactions with this toxic family member? All right, let's get into some steps, right? So if you see this person, a few times a year, it might be easy or easier just to make that less frequent. So maybe you go from seeing them 2 to 3 times a year to once a year. And maybe that does it. Maybe that is enough for you to say, well, I still want to maintain them as a family member. I don't feel comfortable cutting them off completely, but you lessen the impact on you and on your soul. Okay, now sometimes we have the families of the Sunday dinner families, right? That may be you. So you're looking more like at weekly or monthly exposure to this toxic family member. And at that point in time, we really need to invoke some very specific guidelines for boundaries. And yes, those can be really hard to set and maintain with people who are narcissistic or have borderline personality or sociopaths, right? They're not going to recognize a boundary no matter how many times you set it. So we're going to look at doing things like, number one, if you can limit the frequency with which you see them, that is a great first step. The second thing is, see if you can create some allies in your family. Is there somebody that you can trust who is typically going to be there when you're exposed to this person? And if there is, that's gold, right? So you're going to speak with that person confidentially and just make a pact with them that maybe neither of you will ever be exposed to this person when you're on your own. You won't allow the person to isolate you at all. Number two, you make a pact about, okay, so how do we handle it if this person starts acting up, right? Number three, That person's opinion of you, that toxic person in your family, that it's none of your business. So they're going to criticize and blame and shame, you no matter what. So I always love the thing of, if you can control your timing to these events, always have somewhere else to go. So be late. Be the family member who's late to everything and darn it all has to leave early. So you can limit your exposure simply by having another place to go. Now, there are two gifts in that one, right? Because if you have a place to go and really do have a place to go, even if it's home, make that a healing journey. Make that if you're going to engage with a toxic person, then make sure you do your self-care afterwards. Make sure that you've got somebody to catch you. Even if it's you, right? Even if it's you and your self-care rituals. Even better yet, if you've got somebody that you can call or talk to, that's terrific. So, if you're really feeling like you can be bold and have a voice, then my last gift to you is make this your hill. Make this the relationship where you do speak up, where you let them know this is not okay, that you're not going to be spoken to this way, that you're not going to be treated this way, that you deserve better. But please understand, they're not going to acknowledge that. They're not going to change, and they're not going to really consider those boundaries that you've set at all. So do it for you because you want to have that voice. But don't do it because you're expecting them to say, I'm so sorry. Like, that's not going to happen. So, and again, that's no judgment on my part. It's just part of narcissism. It's part of borderline. They just don't have the equipment to actually treat you that way. Sometimes they can learn little skill sets, but they don't usually choose to use them. So this is Wisdom Wednesdays. This is Dr. Sage Breslin, and best of luck. And if you are exposing yourself to a toxic family member, let's follow these steps and see how far we can get you out of that situation. And if you need my help, absolutely call me or book some time with me. All right, take good care.